Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning! Welcome to a quick guide on power leveling in Tactics Ogre Reborn. I'm just kidding, I'm lying. We're actually going to talk about why levels don't matter in the least. Okay, so this is a video primarily for the new folks here. The ones that are still coming into this game and thinking like, wow, I got this guy, he's an insanely endgame, postgame kind of unit. I need to take my biggest move and I need to go hit the boss and... Oh no, that's all they do. That all of his incredibly high stats and, high power equipment and big fancy move, it only does like a quarter of her health bar. Oh no, the health bars are too big. How is my heart going to take this? So let's go ahead and talk about how you actually get damage done in this game. So this is the standard traditional RPG approach. This sucks. Let's go ahead and move on to the next stuff here. So as you can see, this guy's got a endgame Heaven General sword over here. Basic damage is going to be 273. That is some hot garbo. Sonic Blade is going to be fairly quick, but it's still hitting for a 373. And Grand Cross over here with the highest power thing he can do is 563. Now, there's a lot of things to unpack with just that right there, because all of those previous moves that I mentioned are not equal in their cost. You might be thinking like, wow, swinging your basic weapon should be a pretty cheap thing. However, recovery time over here, that would be this number right up here, is going to be pretty freaking important. It is 45. So essentially, you would be spending 45 recovery time as opposed to the Sonic Blade, which is doing almost twice as much damage, which takes essentially a quarter of the time to actually use. So effectively, well, actually a third of the time, sorry. Math is hard. Anyway, point being, still, you're getting a far better result by just using the finisher or any of these other finishers. Essentially, they are all suitable for different purposes. Power is not a linear thing in this game, is what I'm trying to get across here. For example, you need a ranged attack or you need to punish an earth unit. That's what Cyclone Saber is for. These are not made equally in terms of being directly balanced against one or another. Everything is situational. Like his sword over here. It is going to have a lot of attack power, but its big elemental bonus might be really useful if he's attacking a fire unit. That's a 20% bonus versus fire units. If he personally is attacking a unit, this might be a cheap way to get a lot of extra damage versus a water unit. Or if he just needs to do a quick attack, spending some MP for a Sonic Blade would be faster, or Lightning Strike and Grand Cross are effectively just different cost variants of a similar move, one being the lower power, one being the higher power, that you would just simply for how much cost you need to invest right now. Do you need to essentially get a worse value to go kill the thing off, hopefully immediately, or is it something that you can get away with using the cheaper one for? Or do you need to hit it from far away? That's the basic math here. It's not a matter of one being stronger than another. Essentially, stats, direct power, all of this kind of thing, there's something that would make a lot more sense in something like a standard RPG or something where you make the number go up and it's always going up. In this case, it's all situational. For example, this guy over here has a sword that has an elemental advantage versus her. He also has 3 different skills stacked up that allow him to get a Berserk bonus for an additional 30%. He has a Sanguine Assault to boost his strength. He also has Mighty Strike to boost his attack to a critical hit and also give 100%. And he also has a Double Impact to be able to hit twice. Essentially, he has gone and stacked all of these up at the same time. This takes a lot of time, but it is potentially incredibly powerful, and additionally, it would guarantee the secondary effect on his weapons. On this particular case, this would be the effect of hitting with the averse effect, which means that second attack, as you saw, did an extra 200 due to a roughly 15% bonus due to that averse effect taking place. So, essentially, averses are going to be your first thing that you'll probably notice as far as defensive breakthroughs. And additionally, bear in mind that these elements will be affecting different elements in different ways. So, for example, Infinity is a very high-cost finisher for him, but it's only reaching 417 versus her. But versus this Knight, it's getting a potentially much larger bonus because he is Lightning, and the attack is Earth, giving a pretty substantial bonus in that case. Or if he were to go use this Ice Prison move over here against one of these air units, it would do significantly more versus those air guys. So bear in mind, you don't have to match your element. These are essentially different ways for you to hit on those different elements. These are one thing that you really got to bear in mind if you're looking to get the most damage out of stuff. They're not the only thing that you need to use, like if you see a threatening spellcaster boss or something like that, rolling for a Mistral Edge might potentially be the advantage you're looking for, or if you've stacked up crits, Mantis Strike might be something more that you're looking for, but these are all situational. Get the notion of linear progression out of your head. said, everything is situational in this game. A lot of the basic stuff you'll run into early game continues to be absolutely kick-ass in the late game. This is all, by the way, before we even get into stuff like cards and what have you. And bear in mind again that when it came to all of these, obviously we haven't used the cards, but these units outside of Mr. Lancelot over here are basic units. They have not taken any additional stat charms or whatever else. Meanwhile, bear in mind in the context of all of this, here is Teresa over here with her mid-game Damascus Mace, who is now hitting her for a 530. Currently almost the highest of our previous hits here. So that is going to be pretty significant. Which might be even more concerning once we get over to the Cleric, which will do even more. Who again is attacking with a basic staff. Again, linear progression is not exactly the thing here. As you see here, this will essentially be a triple attack. In their particular case, if they go for the triple, it'll look something like this. That they go to Trinity Pulse, this is going to give them an elemental advantage, and they'll attack multiple times. However, those secondary hits were a bit weaker. That, you might be wondering, wait a minute, how on earth is that stronger? It's got the potential to be stronger. Again, stuff ain't linear around here. So, let's go ahead and go back to this Terror Knight. So, in this case, we're going to go ahead and use the first of our common defensive breaks, and this is going to be the Dynast King's Mead. Additionally, you've got the breach effect off your items as well. You've also got weapons that'll inflict breach. You've got rupture off items as well. So now we're just going to throw a simple breach into the mix. This is 100% hit chance. There's only one type of status that can possibly prevent this type of attack. So with that being applied, we'll go ahead and attack now, and now we see it's 334, and now those secondary hits are doing over 100 each. They were previously doing 20. Essentially, Breach is a 50% bonus, but potentially it's applying a lot more than that. So we're going to go ahead and go back to his turn, and we're going to go ahead and strengthen him real quick, and we're going to wait real quick, because we're going to strengthen him, and then we're going to apply another defensive break. After that, we'll apply another defensive break. There's a lot of different defensive breaks that you can apply. Typically, this is going to be Breach or Rupture for your big 20 or 50% bonus. Rupture is going to get roughly 20%. Actually, I think it might be up to 30%, but it doesn't really matter, because magic doesn't necessarily scale particularly high. It is a lower number scaling a lower amount, whereas with physical stuff, it's typically a higher amount that's got more kind of defenses against itself. So anyway, we'll now go ahead and actually throw a dodge on her for reasons that'll make sense in a moment. And we'll go ahead and wait right there. At this point, we can also go ahead and take a look at this guy's massive multi-stack over here and see that he has now gone from what was originally about a 200 damage hit with his basic attack to now potentially several thousand over the course of one debuff. If we were to apply this right here, we'll see the first one will do 1500, the second one would be 1700. Again, stuff not really applying linearly there, is it? That it's still about that same 200 because it's applying to whatever the hell it was to begin with. Anyways, again, if you want to get into the full nitty-gritty of all of this stuff, please go see Recession's Damage Calculator. It's easier to just say this stuff is made by crazy people and go ahead and move on. Additionally, elemental finishers, as you can see right here, are going to apply pretty darn well. Basic Knight over here with primarily just an extra vitality boost on account of him being a somewhat special knight, is still doing potentially over half of a health bar to this boss unit. Again, tell me again about those big health bars, because they seem to be deleted within a couple of attacks. Okay, and for the sake of comparison also, if anything can be poisoned, this again would be ticking another 180 multiple times per round, so just something else to potentially consider. Actually, a little bit of a side note on poison. The poison, the kind of direct use of the poison isn't directly to get rid of something's health as it is. More so, this is just lowering the bar that it takes to go and just snipe something. So it's able to effectively hit behind healing, it's able to constantly keep pressure down. It's useful for far more than just direct damage. Don't get that whole idea of just direct damage, blah 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 out of your head. It's just not really how stuff works around here. Alright, so now she is frightened, she is stunned. And now let's go ahead and take a look at how that cleric's doing, again, before any cards or whatever else. Oh wow, that is a significantly larger number. This is why, if you've ever heard me say that a cleric with the right finishers can potentially one-shot the final boss of the game. I mean, the final boss of the story, anyway. The final boss of the game is, oh boy, a totally different story, but anyway, I'm assuming most of y'all that are watching this right now probably are not familiar with that guy, so we'll just go ahead and leave it at that. Anyway, so as you can see, that's pretty significant. Basic weapon guy has simply increased to 591 on his basic attack, and his big slappy move does 881. So with all of that, he has effectively, like, he is still essentially one tier behind just the basic sword guy going and doing his finisher there. Okay, so we'll go ahead and throw a few other comparisons here. Again, with Denim over here, he potentially can now throw out a significant amount more because Fear is again lowering her defenses by quite a large amount. We don't even get to see the second attack because she's deleted by the first one. Funnily enough, actually back in the PSP version, you would be allowed to take the second attack. The second attack would just simply delete somebody out of existence, and it looked very funny. Or rather, actually no, it was just Instill Effects that had that, but anyway, details. So bear in mind, this is not even the full extent of where we can go with this. We can still apply a Versus, like he has on his sword, for that additional roughly like 200 or so in this context, to potentially going and applying an Instill Effect to then apply another 15% on top of that. You can just keep stacking this stuff on and on and on and on and on in all kinds of absolutely crazy ways. So again, bear in mind that these are base stats units fighting a boss and basically accidentally trying not to one-shot them. There's no excuse here for trying to say that your stat grind didn't give you the results you needed. These debuffs, these elements, all of these kinds of things, that's what you should be paying attention to. I know this is repeat information for folks that have been around on the channel for a while, but this is how you get stuff one-shotted and whatever else. And that right there, that is the value of dodge. You ever wonder, if you ever see on these videos why I constantly have a Jewel of the Avatar on everybody, that wasn't stats that made her dodge that. Because you're almost always going to have 100% hit chance. It's a Jewel of the Avatar. That 20% dodge chance, she doesn't need to take that extra turn to heal. She has essentially taken that healing ahead of time. She has taken that 20% to effectively just avoid 1100 damage. So again, buffs, debuffs, pay attention to them, use them. Elements, pay attention to them, use them. Stop trying to stat grind. It's not going to get you the results you want. In fact, let's go ahead and show you real quick. For comparison's sake, you saw how a few quick moves here got us thousands of damage worth of benefit, right? Okay, fantastic. Now let's go ahead, go over to some of these units here, and let's go ahead and show you what those big level ups are giving you. Okay, so let's go ahead and say we got this level 1 over here, right? So, effectively, if we go ahead and use the biggest experience charm we've got, we're getting almost, okay, we're getting 8 levels, and we're getting, at best case scenario, assuming no defense is involved, a 20 damage physical bonus, 50 damage magical bonus. Again, bear in mind, magical bonus is a bit higher because it doesn't really, like, move around as much. Physical bonuses move around like crazy all over the place. But you see what I'm getting at here? You see, like, you can add an extra 10 levels to this, and it's not getting you the results you think you're getting. It's not the thing that's actually giving you the numbers. More than likely, if you got those big damage spikes, you probably hit on a weakness and didn't even notice. That's how this stuff ends up coming up. Personally, yeah, I believe that this needed a way bigger tutorial to explain folks how this works in the beginning. Maybe just a full-blown, tutorial section. But again, a few more things to unpack here. Look over there on the right. If we put it up 1 level, we see that she's getting +2 across the board to every stat, and then she has a little bit extra towards mind. Now, does that jive with what you're seeing right here, where she's essentially now getting higher intelligence than she does mind over the course of those 8 levels, but additionally she's also sometimes getting better agility and avoidance and sometimes better mind and resistance, but then overall intelligence is the higher one? No, it doesn't, because a lot of these little bonuses will actually vary based on the level and will actually go up by decimals. So effectively, you're not even getting a full linear bonus throughout this whole thing. So in the time that it would take you to, let's say, switch somebody out to the quote-unquote optimal class to go get them power leveled for one particular stat or the other, realistically, you would have been better off just using far less time to just go get these charms. They are handed out like candy in the end game, and even then they are not enough to make a unit a frickin' god. In fact, pretty much this entire squad here, all of them are different builds, usable for different situations, different purpose-built tools to serve particular jobs. Meanwhile, throughout the entire campaign, we've gotten hundreds of charms, and I've dumped them all onto this chicken. Because it's funny. Because the one type of unit that actually does benefit in a unique way from charms, it's going to be your monster units, because they don't really have that many ways to raise up their mind score, and at the same time, a lot of their skills, like for example the chance of petrification on their Petro Breath, will scale off of mind. So personally, I would recommend forget all of that grinding stat charms or whatever else. Save the stat charms for your beast units. They actually need them. For everybody else, no. They have equipment, they have skills, they have items. So, for example, I left this thing on here for this particular reason. Black Lizard Powder. For everybody else, except for beast units or anyone else relying on skills, this will give you a minimum. This will apply Spell Strike. This is the same thing that Concentration does on your skill list, but it gives you a minimum 30% chance to hit with debuffs, and additionally, if you already were hitting with those debuffs, it raises it by 30%, meaning that either Concentration or Black Lizard Powder can near guarantee a hell of a lot of things. You might be saying, wait a minute, 30%, that's low. Now, let's go ahead and observe something like a Terror Knight, right? In their particular case, let's say we wanted to build a unit specifically designed around the idea of debuffs, right? And I will once again forget that I have an alarm going. Fantastic. So, look at something like this, right? What are the downfalls of a Terror Knight? Well, they've got a limited access to certain debuffs. Oh no. But at the same time, they've potentially got a lot of different skills for potentially blocking movement or applying debuffs or what have you. So you don't have to use anything in a traditional way in this game. So like, let's say, we're in endgame, we probably want to keep Steadfast on there. But look at this guy, okay? We've got Rampart Aura. We can go ahead and keep Concentration on there to constantly have that Spell Strike effect on there. This means that this area of effect, Paralytic Wave, or this Sleep, are going to always have at least 30% chance to hit. Both of them are fairly cheap. This guy's in the front line. He's probably going to be getting hits and therefore getting free MP pretty decently. Anytime that he doesn't, he's got an area of effect Poison Cloud off this shield. He's got a charm off of this Caldia over here, and potentially we could go down other, other equipment options, see what the hell's available. Like we could get free paralytic waves off of these Shadow Greaves. We could potentially hell, if we wanted to feel funny, I guess we could go ahead and invest the Ogre set into this for even more free spell casts. He doesn't get Luminance, but either way, there's a lot of different pieces of equipment that will give you different spell uses. So essentially, what we're building for here is not stats. We're ignoring those stats entirely. His mind score is kind of whatever. In the late game, you've got so many things running around that will just completely bypass your mind score whatsoever, to the point that you'll have 0% odds to hit. But something like Spell Strike still gives you that 30%. Something like Dodge still gives you that 20%. Something like Fall Strike still gives that 20%. So if, for example, you're using the effect of Weather to affect accuracy, you're using the effect of Footing to affect accuracy, you're using something like Fall Strike, something like Dodge, you're putting yourself in the right position, you can still have maxed out evasion odds versus a unit 20 levels higher than you in the late game, if you're applying all these things and using them to your advantage. This is a strategy game first and foremost. It is not a grindfest. It's not a collectathon. This is like pure strategy through and through. You look at the pieces, you apply them when you need them. You build your units as just custom-suited tools to do their job. They are soldiers assigned a task. They are not a just walking spreadsheet. Alright, so that's about that. I gotta get going. So, y'all have yourselves a good one. Take care. Thank you for stopping by. I really hope this helps all y'all new folks from hopefully not posting yet another angry Discord or Reddit post over how the health bars are too big. Man, that stuff gets disheartening to see after a while, because it's like, just use a debuff. Please use a debuff. It's like, I'm not even replying to you anymore. Just use a debuff, man. Alright, anyway, y'all have yourselves a good one. Thank you for stopping by, and take care. Later.